Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So before we go anywhere, I need to tell you that tonight I feel like a proper winner, a superstar, a rock star, super mom, whatever you want to call it. I feel like it because I've got both the kids to bed by 8 o'clock, my dishes are washed, I'm in my pajamas, I did my night skincare routine. I must admit it's a very rare occurrence, but I'm gonna celebrate the small wins. And I'm ready to film my video. So this week I'm talking about how we prepared the girls for an overseas move, and it's really a big one. It was something that was super important for me. But before we get into it, I'm gonna make myself a cup of tea. Rooibos, of course. Okay, so we're all good to go. I've got my tea and my flaming hot Doritos, which is quickly becoming a favorite, and now we can get right into it. So most of you will be familiar with the fact that I have two little girls. I've got a 7 turning 8-year-old, and then we've got a 2-year-old as well. So a lot of this will actually pertain and depend on how old your kids are, and of course their level of understanding. So the way we would handle it with our 7-year-old versus our 2-year-old is completely different as well. So for the most part, this relates more to our 7-year-old, but at the end I will just touch on what we did with our 2-year-old just to get her into the idea or get her to have some sort of understanding of what was happening as well. Of course, these are things that worked for us, and it would purely depend on how your child and you communicate, what their love language is, and what works best for them. So of course, as a parent, you would know your child best, but these might be some ideas that you could use if you are planning a move that might make the transition a little bit easier for you as well. So of course, once we found out we were going to move, I started researching, I read so many articles, and of course the impact of a move, and especially moving countries, upping, leaving your entire family, everything you know, moving schools, it's, you know, it can be very traumatic and a very emotional experience for a child. I really wanted to make sure that I prepared them as best that I could, and to ensure that it was a smooth transition for both of them. So I think one of the most important things for us was to keep our kids involved in the news. We've pretty much had a very open door policy for most of our parenting life, and we sort of planted a seed when we had decided we were thinking about an overseas move or an experience overseas, and we had already asked May, our eldest, her opinion. What did she think of the idea of living overseas, and what might she like about it, what might she not like about it. So we had planted that seed, so it wasn't something that we sprung on. When my husband was actually going through the job interviews, it was something we mentioned again. We had her involved in the news the entire time. It also, for us, we felt like it taught her a life skill of being able to understand rejection and understand disappointment, and also sort of understanding some things work out and some things don't, you know. So we had her involved in all of that. And then the moment that we found out that my husband actually got the job, she was there for it. So we don't pull each other aside to say this is happening and how we're going to discuss it with her. We sort of let her experience our emotions with it as well. When my husband found out that he got the job, he walked into the room, and we were all in the room. We were getting ready for our evening routine, and he said, you know, they're making me an offer. And we knew he was on the phone, so we were sort of trying to listen. We couldn't really hear. And then he walked in and said, they made me an offer. And immediately I was so excited. I jumped on him. We had this big hug. And our eldest was there to experience it and understand it and see that we were so excited about it. So I think it's also important to involve them in that so that they feel the excitement along with you. And then the second thing which leads on from that is help them get excited. They might feel nervous at first when they hear the news. They might feel uncertain. You know, for us, our eldest was quite excited about the news, but then we had moments where she started to worry about it as well. So we tried to put her mind at ease by doing research. So we watched YouTube videos, we let her ask questions, we started talking about what it would be like. So in the evening, instead of a bedtime story for a few weeks, we actually started doing, let's talk about London, let's talk about what school is going to be like, let's talk about what your day might look like, let's ask questions, think about some questions tomorrow, and tomorrow night we can answer those questions. So we just spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke, and she's a child, her love language is quality time. And she can be quite sensitive. She does not like change a lot. So I think I was most worried about that. But I think preparing her in this way helped just to ease her into the idea of us leaving the country. The third thing we did was, and I think this is quite an important one, because a lot of the time kids feel like they don't really get a choice in it, and they have no control of the situation. So we have to give them some control in a way that obviously feels good for them and comfortable for us. So we got our eldest involved in what she would keep and what she would give away and the packing process. We also asked her opinion on stuff like, because we had the opportunity to obviously redecorate and get new bedding, and we were going to do her room. So we took the opportunity to ask her opinion on that and give her control of it. Also getting her excited about it, but also making her feel like she was involved in that process. And we were doing this together, and this was an adventure that we were all going on together. And here you're going to have to also pick your battles, because there might be some things that have, I think, a lot of sentimental value, might have been super expensive, might be brand new, and they might not choose it. But I think that's a teachable moment as well. So we did want to give her as much control as possible. So when we did the decluttering of her room, she understood how much we had to downsize. She understood what was going to go on the ship, and that she was only going to see it in a few months. And then she chose the most important toys that were going to go in the bag, that were going to fly with us, and that she was going to have when she got there. And then we got involved with the clothes as well. So choose your outfits, and then obviously we discussed seasons and what's going to make sense in terms of practicality of clothes, but we had her involved in everything. The fourth one, I think, is the hardest one. It's the reality of leaving your life behind, of saying goodbye to friends and family and seeing them on video call, you know. It's a sad part, and it's a reality when you decide to emigrate. So that was a big thing for us to just explain to the girls, and especially for our eldest, who understands a lot more. She felt sad about it, and we wanted to acknowledge those feelings and not brush it off, and we wanted to tell her that we were also sad about it. So we spoke to her a lot about how we would still stay in touch with friends and family. We had plans in place of which day of the week we would call, what time it's going to work depending on the time difference. I always just call up my nieces and nephews, and she has a video call with them, and she loves it. We also, you know, when you leave, you also want to think about when you're going to see each other next again. I know it's not always the situation for many people, and they might not be planning a trip immediately, but if you're lucky enough to be able to be planning a trip, you can also talk to them about that and just get them excited about spending quality time rather than quantity time, which really becomes a focus when you are planning a move like this. And the next thing we did, which is more of a social tool really, was we wanted to equip her on ways to make new friends. We wanted to make her excited about making new friends, and we wanted to equip her on how to make friends. So we would talk about, and we do like a two-way conversation, sort of role play about what you'd say, how would you introduce yourself, what do you think is important about yourself for them to know, and just ways in which to just socialize and for her to be able to make friends. The flaming hot is really good, but when you pair it with tea, literally opens up everything on your tongue, and I love it. It's so good. Anyway, so that was some of the ways that we prepared our 7-year-olds, and then our 2-year-olds are a lot more complicated. We found our 2-year-old obviously doesn't understand as much, and she might acknowledge what we're saying, but I don't know how much, on what level of understanding she actually had. We just continuously tried to just reiterate what we were doing. So we would talk about it in a very light-hearted way, and we'd say stuff like, Ray is going to London, and we would say, you're going to go on an aeroplane, and we're going to say goodbye to our friends and our families, and then we're going to go all the way to London. And then we'd say stuff like, and London is very cold, it's not going to be hot like South Africa. So just stuff like that, and we just constantly did that for like leading up to a month. And you know, we also just sort of prepared her. She was going to leave her nanny, who she's been with since she was born, and that was going to be a big thing. So we tried to just prepare her, as in like just saying to her, this is what's happening. But we also wanted to still keep a relationship, so not just shock her into it. I also wanted to be mindful of the fact that it's, regardless of what I did, it was probably still going to be difficult for her. So regardless of what you try, what you do, it's probably still going to be difficult for them. So I think a level of understanding and patience is needed. It's not always easy, especially when you're going through a big move and so much happening, and you can be overwhelmed and, you know, you take strain. I just tried to be as patient as I could in the moments where I felt like she was having a hard time. We video called a lot as well. She loves video calling everyone. I think it was particularly hard because she had gotten so close to a lot of our family over the holidays. We spent extra time with our family, obviously gearing us for the move. We spent a lot more time with our family, which was really nice. That also meant that Ray got super close to everyone, and she would ask for them. And Ray's love language, on the other hand, is touch, physical touch. So while a video call might suffice, she, I think, struggled with the fact that she can't physically see people, but that means extra cuddles from mom and dad. And we've gotten to a point now where, you know, we can read her cues, but we've also figured out what works for her, what she enjoys doing. She's absolutely loved being outdoors. She loves going to the toddler classes that we have enrolled her into. She loves dancing, she loves singing. She's really come out of her shell. So while yes, in the beginning there might have been a bit of an adaptation period, I think she's doing really, really well. So yeah, I think for both the girls, they have, or they seem to have, adjusted quite well. I think it's normal to still go through the motions where they might have moments where they act out, or they might have moments where they're emotional about it. But I think love and support and just being there for them and being able to talk about it also goes a really long way. So if you are moving with your kids and you want to prepare them, I hope you find these tips helpful. And I would suggest starting as soon as you possibly can. It's never too early to plant that seed, to get their mind wrapped around the idea of it, because it really is a big change. It's a big move. And these little people have really big feelings. I think for us it was important to try and do our best, you know, to keep them happy, to keep them adjusted. And you know, of course we still make mistakes along the way, but each of us just has to do the best that we can. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, share and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section if there's anything else you want me to discuss. I've added in the description box some of the other topics that I will be covering. If there's anything else you want me to talk about, if you have any questions, please do pop them in the comments. Thank you for watching. Until next time.